Well, I know this is one of my longer videos, and actually my largest RV job I've ever tackled it, and got it all completed though. But I want to point out a few things before we get started. First of all, let me show you. When it first got to me, this is what it looked like. Now, when the fella called me, he was out in Texas. He lives in this RV full time. I was really hesitant to take on the project, but because I knew it was going to be a big job to do in my driveway. But in the end, I decided to do it because his RV is identical to ours. It's a Winnebago 38J floor plan. Ours is being a Voyage and his being an Adventure, very, very little difference. But I thought, well, if his failed in this way, there's always a possibility that ours would fail like this. And if it did, I'd want to know what to do to make the repair. So now they've got the repair completed, I hope I never have to do it again. So, because it was a doozy of a job. But if you ever get into this situation, now you'll know what to do. The main culprit here is once I got it apart, you see the bottom rail assembly had split open, and it's caused a lot of damage. I had to take the whole thing out, had to support the room. There's another shot of it with the flippers damaged. In the end, we ended up replacing the entire rail assembly with all the inner pipes and everything. Because it ended up being the best route to go. Because after I dug into it, someone else had been into it, and it was just too far gone to try to repair just by trying to replace just this outer shell. So we replaced everything in it. And there's another shot comparing the new to the old whole assembly. So it turned out pretty good. And if you happen to have, this is what the Winnebago StoreMore flat floor, I think that's what it's called, and of course made by HWH. But if you happen to have an RV with this style of system, you'll find this very helpful. What else I would want to point out to you? I think I misspoke a little bit in the beginning. I was talking about, you see this box area. I thought I mentioned it was mounted on a hinge. It's not mounted on a hinge, but it's mounted on some thin metal up front. But in the rear, it's only supported by 2 bolts. So in disassembly, you got to be sure to not only, you got to support the room up here, the weight of the room, but you also have to individually support the boxes down below. And you may see why I kind of repeat myself a couple times, because I made a couple separate videos that I sent off to HWH because I was trying to determine exactly how and why this failed, if it was due to the room jamming up or if it was just due to an overweight situation. Because remember, per rail assembly, we only have 500 pounds per rail, so a total of 1,000 pounds. That includes the room, the storage, and everything that sits on the room, the couch, the chairs, the kitchen, whatever's there. You can't exceed 1,000 pounds, and I'm sure that it exceeded that. And even HWH couldn't definitely say which way it failed. If it was 100% due to overweight, or if it was due to the room jamming up on the way in and creating so much pressure that it just buckled it. But you'll see more detail in the video as I get into it. And also watch for this. I'm going to put a link to the slide out room information. This is kind of helpful too. It gives you some written information about the adjustments and what parts are. And this is kind of what I went by to begin with to get me going. Something else I want to remind you is this is some good stuff here. I'll put a link to it to keep that stuff lubricated. And I know HWH says don't lube it, but I talked to a gentleman who's been doing this, working on slides for HWH for 20 years, and he always uses slide lube. He says that was his recommendation to me, and that's something I've always done. I want to keep that stuff moving nice and smooth without any hang-ups. Now, just absolutely don't use any type of grease, silicone spray, or nothing like that. In fact, this RV looks like someone had sprayed some not silicone, but hang on, what is that called? No, I know what it was. It was called. It looks like someone had sprayed lithium grease on it, and then that just attracts all the dirt and debris, and it really gums up the works. And that may have been part of this RV's issue also. So avoid that. But I do know this stuff works really well. 3-in-1 slide-out lube. It keeps everything nice and dry and slick and moving nice and free. And in the end, it was about a 7-week project, because a lot of it was waiting on parts. But we finally got it all together. And if you watch this video, I think you'll learn quite a bit. I did. I know there's a lot in here. and a lot of good information that I figured out, and it may be helpful for you so you can keep your HWH slide system working nice and smooth, and hopefully you never have to do a repair like this. But if you do, I think you can do it yourself. I did it in the driveway with just basic hand tools. Oh, and one more thing, I don't think I mentioned it. You may notice at the very end of the video, I still was getting a little contact with this timing bar as the room was coming out, so I lowered it just a tick more. That's a critical adjustment on this timing bar, getting it dialed in. But it seems like, you know, it just barely touches the room is about right. If you crank it up too much, then the glide shoe is going to come in contact with it as it comes out and bend it over. So that's a critical part. And remember, I think from now on, I'm going to spray this with that dry lube because it's plastic, you know, it's a plastic part on top. So if it ever does come on contact, at least it has a more slick surface. Hopefully it'll just slide up and over and not have a less chance of bending the timing bar. But you'll see that later in the video. Okay, one more thing, critical thing I want to point out, because you may not make it to the end of the video. I thought about putting it at the end of the video, but this is more important, put it at the front. After doing all this work, putting it all back together and stuff, our critical thing we need to keep in mind is keeping the weight off these slide rooms, especially these larger ones. This one, you know, the HWH, but this one is 16 foot long. And in a 38J, we got a rocking chair, you got a couch, you got the kitchen, the pots and pans, the microwave, cooktop, and that little bar section, plus whatever the crap you store down here. So I thought a good strategy might be, of course, look at your pots and pans. If there's anything you can lighten a load up, move things around. But maybe a good strategy would be, like, maybe have 3 large totes full of whatever. Well, as you're traveling, that's fine. The stressors when the room goes out or in. So say, for instance, you get your campground site, open up your storage, take your 3 large totes out, put them on the ground. You get all that, you know, you may easily take off 150 pounds or something off of it. Then bring the slide out. Then put your totes back in. Do your camping when you get ready to leave in a week. Do the same thing. Pull your totes out, set them on the ground. Then bring the slide in, because that's our critical point. More so when that goes in, that slide is going up that, well, like a 30-degree ramp. I think I measured it. When it goes up that ramp, that's the stressor. And anything you can do to get the weight out of it and keep it lubed well, I think hopefully you can avoid of this ever happening to you, because you sure don't want it to happen to you, because you'll see here in this video. So, all right, I guess that's enough. On with the show. Thanks for watching. Well, it's another day and another project. This is going to be a doozy of a project, I believe. We're working on here, it's a 2005 Winnebago Adventure. There it is in my back. Winnebago Adventure. Floor plan is a 38J. And what has happened to this RV is the ram assembly, the hydraulic, I think they call it a rail, maybe. Rail assembly, hydraulic ram. This heavy duty mechanism that brings the room in and out has buckled and collapsed. And let me see if I can see all that metal that's bent. It is not supposed to be that way. So this creates a very bad situation. I've seen pictures of this before. I've never witnessed one up close, never repaired one. So this will be an interesting project for me. I'll be learning something new today, or probably the next week. Depends on how long it takes to get all this apart and repaired. But it's all bent. I believe what happens is when these rooms come in, sometimes they'll get jammed up, and the ram has so much power, it just collapses because it's hooked. I mean, it's like, this thing's, I don't know, 6-8 feet long. It connects way back there in the back, big long hydraulic cylinder. Remember, we're operating on like 3,000 to 4,000 psi. So if your room is coming in and it stops on one corner, get off the button and find out why. If you don't watch that room when it comes in and it hooks on one corner, you might see, okay, one starts moving, the other one stops. But if you stay on that button, that ram has so much power, it's just going to buckle things. And that's what's happened here. As it was trying to go up that ramp, I guess the weakest link is, well, that's probably when the highest stress is going on. It's ramping up, and you can see where it bent, where it got bent. It's supposed to look, let's get another flashlight. See, it's supposed to look like this one. Nice and straight in there. Even this one, see how nice and straight it is? Even this one's got some damage. I don't know how that happened. So, but you can see how bad our line's off. Look at that. That's off about 3/4 of an inch. Let's take you inside and show you some things I saw. Okay, first of all, you notice this. Now the linoleum has been removed and put down this planking. That may have been the start of the problem, because in particular the 38Js, they have a problem. We got so much weight. I think the ram sits right about in here, but you got all this microwave stove, all your pots and pans. You got so much weight on this corner, plus whatever you put in the storage compartment, and the floor tends to wants to bow down slightly, and it'll want to hook on this corner when it comes in. And because the linoleum has been replaced with this flooring, it probably raised the edge up, and maybe it hooked on that when it was coming in. And you can see how it pushed the boards. See, it pushed the boards past flush, and I'm sure it's got some damage on that wood. And you can see how bad our gap is. See how you can tell the room is really jacked up on the hole, because we shouldn't be seeing daylight. And you can see on this other end, look how low we are. So that sweep, the sweep is not even touching, and it's almost touching there in the corner, because you can tell that by the paint line outside. So we are not squaring the hole at all. So my first step is hopefully I can get this out smoothly, and then we'll start the project of dissecting things and getting it repaired. I checked the rollers seem to be good. It's got new carpet. It's got thicker padding, I noticed, than regular, but let's see, you see the padding under here. I don't know if that's going to raise the room up a little bit or not, but I like the carpet. Just concerned about the thickness of things, the thickness of this floor, how that's going to change the room. All right, so I guess let's try to get this out and get it supported so I can start taking things apart. All right, let's keep our fingers crossed we can get this room out at least without things going crazy. That's why I said watch these rooms as they move. Ooh wee! Lord have mercy, that's bad. Whew. Look at this tilt we're getting. Goodness gracious! Man, oh man, that's nuts. Can you see? I don't know if you. Yeah, look at this gap we got down here. That's insane. All right, we better move a little bit slowly here. So I told you that's scary looking. My. See, it's because this is so bent so bad, it's just following the bend, I guess. We're almost to the end. Got about maybe 6-8 inches to come out. Moving slowly, moving slowly. Well, as you see, I'm getting closer. It's not all the way out, but ain't got much further to go. I added a little bit of support to it as it's coming out. Still in a mess though. Let me push it out just a little bit more, a little at a time. All right, we got it just about, well, it's all the way out. I took it all the way out, then bumped it in just a tick to get the gasket, to get the pressure off the gaskets. I'll show you what I did on this side. So just get your finger in here, so that way I can have easier way to adjust the room up and down as needed. So the next big project to get under there and start getting things apart, because now that part that was all bent is now in a different location. It's back in there much farther, easier for me to get to. But all this stuff, all this metal's got to come out, be removed. Hydraulic cylinders need to be disconnected, and all kinds of fun things. We'll just figure it out as we go. Well, I had my first little bit of good luck here. Remember I told you they painted over all the numbers, so I was able to peel off the sticker, ran it over hot water for a good long time, and kept scraping on it till I got the model number and serial number exposed. So that's going to help out greatly, because before we was in a mystery. We didn't know what exactly what model this rail assembly was, because I think they make at least three different ones that I know of. So that's going to help a bunch. So a little good luck on that part. Well, so you know, it's now 3 o'clock in the morning. It's been raining all night. I can't take it no more. It's still raining some. I gathered up my tools. I got me some foam pad under here to protect my knees just a little bit. But I wanted to show you some of this damage. Even though it's dark, I got my light on my phone. Look how bad this has been. Down on the ground. See all that just flared out. That's something you never want to see. A lot of damage. It even buckled the room. Look what it did here. Buckled the metal. It's got this rod is bent. We got quite a few issues. I mean, you can see where it buckled the metal up front, where it pulled so hard. So, you know, combination of weight and the room getting out of adjustment. I noticed there's a roller missing. We've got to address that. And remember, all this stuff has to come out. So it's going to be quite a job. But it's going to be, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be something, isn't it? I got a lot of stuff to take apart. I'll try to show you as I go along, because this support bar has to come off. Because first of all, I got to get the weight of the room supported. You see my 4x4 post? So I went to Lowe's today and picked those up. There's two 16-footers. It works out just right. So it's got some extensions on both ends. And my plan is, I've already got two farm jacks. I'm going to get two more at Harbor Freight this morning. So with that, I can support the room, start getting all this apart. I need to disconnect the rams. I'm going to pull these pins. That's the end of the hydraulic ram. Retract them all the way. So that way, don't have to worry about getting air in the system, because you'll get this, get this whole new assembly. And I believe when they come retracted. But if you, it's a whole bleeding process to get the air out of the rams. So if they're disconnected, you can stroke them back and forth without bringing the rooms in and out, and don't have to worry about maybe getting the room sideways because there's air in the lines. But my first step is on this end. I need to get it back in somewhat normal position, because this has been adjusted all the way down to the bottom, and it's not where it's supposed to be. You can see with the original, where someone had painted it at one time, it's extremely low. In fact, I gotta make some adjustments so I can get to this pin. I gotta get that pin loose. So I'm just going on here, start taking all these screws loose. The support, that's like a jack bolt. It's right hand thread on one end, left hand thread on the other. So you can twist it, and it'll lower this bracket down out of the way. So I gotta get that out of the way. These are gussets. I gotta get the gussets loose, because you have to loosen these so I can adjust this a little bit. So, and then we gotta, you know, like I said, we gotta support the room, but we've also gotta support this separately. If I remember right, these are like on a big hinge. This entire storage box. See, it's only supported by this bolt here, and that bolt up, same one over there on the other one. So, and it's got a long hinge, I believe, all the way across the very front, just above the doors. But when I take this loose, I got to be able to support it separately. Actually, I'm gonna leave that one connected, because this one's still working okay. That one's the one that's gonna come completely apart. So, all right, I'll get me some tools, get started. Okay, change of plans. Before I raise this up, I've already got my jam nuts loosened up. Can we see them? Yeah, see, I've got them backed up, I think kind of where we need to be, about 3/4 of an inch or so higher. I've loosened up the gussets on both sides, but before I raise this ram, the rail assembly, I believe this is called the rail. Before I raise the rail, I want to remove this, because I'll have more room because this is in a lower position. So you had a couple 7/16 screws up here and two long ones here. So got that out, wiggle them loose a little bit. I've loosened this 3/4 nut. Next, I'm going to screw this down to give me more space. Try to get that Phillips screw out of there. It's supposed to be two. One may have broke off. So that's what I'm working on next, and I've got to do the same thing to the other side to get the support out of my way. Oh, this is, let me point this out. See this white plastic? This is I think you call it it's either a slide shoe or a glide shoe, one or the other. Anyway, this is when it comes in. Remember, the weight of the room is sliding across the carpet. That's why when you rip up your carpet and you put in hardwood or linoleum flooring, and then the first time you bring in your room, it gets all scratched up, and you wonder what happened. Well, this is what happened. because this is a hard plastic and it's made to go on carpet. They do make a type of thing, I think it has like felt or something on it, but I still think you're best if you got carpet, stay with carpet. He just had carpet installed. You can see you can see some of the old carpet. So there's the old and there's the new carpet, and you can see that it's kind of clamped in place with this bar. But be mindful of that, and when you make this adjustment, it's got to be very careful, and this is something that causes damage sometimes. Sometimes you'll see these bars bent over, and that's because over time these plastic blocks get worn, and as they do, everything gets a little bit lower and lower. And one of these days you start hearing a noise. If you don't pay attention, this glide shoe will come in contact with this rail and just bend it over. So it's a delicate balance, getting this kind of adjusted just right. So I'll show you that at the end as we put all this thing back together, but be mindful of that. So I wanted to point out how this, I call it a jack bolt, how it works. So you can see every time you turn it, it gets lower. That's how you adjust this. Adjust it down, that gives you enough room to get this out. Things are getting loose now. That's how you do that. See? So this side's already loose. I just got to go to the other side and do the same thing. I failed to mention this jack bolt is a 9/16 wrench, but look at this one. I could talk about how they get bent. Let me see how that rocks back and forth. Every time I turn it, it's bent pretty good. So I'll have to get one of these. So it's got a good wobble to it. It's gonna make it tough to adjust. So this will be another part I will have to get. So we've almost got it out. Okay, so once I got this lowered, all I had to do was roll this piece forward. And see, now it's completely loose. I'll take it out, lay it on the ground later, and make sure it's good and straight. So anyway, that part is out of the way. One step closer. Don't know how many steps we got to go, but we'll eventually get there. Alright, so it's always a good thing to be, if you're any good technician, it needs to be observant. So just look around, look for things that don't look, or look for things that look out of place. So I was on here looking, I noticed, because I got a missing roller up there, big hole. So I was inspecting all the other rollers. I said, okay, that looks okay, that one's rolling, this one's rolling. I said, wait a minute, something don't look right. Look at these brackets, someone's been in here before and made these little flimsy aluminum brackets. See, these are supposed to be some thick steel brackets. And you see how the shaft is flush with the floor? Well, look at this shaft is way up in there. And you can see where the bracket is already bent that someone made. So that could be also contributed to the problem if this roller wasn't low enough getting onto that ramp to lift the room up and over. And you can see a lot of friction scraping right here. That could have been part of the reason why it hung up and caused all this tremendous damage over here. So anyways, I'm going to take this off and add that to my list of parts we need. We're going to need some brackets too. Okay, well, it's finally stopped raining for a minute, so I'm going to start on supporting the room. This is my plan. And I got me this, what's this thing called? No, it's called a farm jack. Get these at Harbor Freight. And I just got it touching. I'm going to give it one click here. You can see it raise up. Alright, just put some pressure on it. You can hear it squeak. It raised up in the hole just slightly. So it should have good weight on it. So hopefully it'll stay put. I got to run to Harbor Freight and get me two more so I can put support out here on the ends. Then once I get that done, then I got to support the bottom part. So that's how we're going to do that. Right or wrong, that's what we're doing. I do have a little concern about using this 4x4 here, about clearance issues. Hopefully this hole will still be large enough I can drop that down and pull that box completely out. If it gives me trouble, I'll have to re-engineer something, but just thinking ahead. How many ways can this go wrong? Alright, update, my room support is in place. Supported on the back side and front side. Take it to the other end. Did the same thing. So now we can get in there and start taking things loose. Alright, next step, I removed this nut here. I had to run this nut as high up as I could to get enough clearance to pull this pin out right here, because that has to be disconnected. And I did have to lower the room just slightly to get me enough clearance to get that disconnected. So one more thing is loose. Alright, for my next trick, I just removed this little E-clip off this pin. This pin holds the end of the hydraulic cylinder. And I got me a nice drift punch here. Just laid it up here and drive that pin out. I'm going to do that on both sides. So here you go. See, there's the pin I punched out with my little drift, and I just pull this out. And you hear the cylinder drop. So you can go back here and lift up on the cylinder, and you can get it lined back up when it comes time to put it back together. So if I get the other side out, then I'm going to retract these, get them back out of the way. Okay, small change of plans. I thought I was going to take these lines loose, but I'm not really for sure if when we get this new assembly, if it comes with a cylinder or not. So the cylinder is still good, so if it doesn't come with one, I'm just going to leave the lines hooked up, because I realized I got like a shoulder bolt here, and I've done removed one from the other side. So when I remove this, the cylinder will just drop down. You can see I've got it disconnected. So that is what we're going to do at this moment. Okay, cylinder's out of the way. I got those large 3/4 inch nuts. I've got that one off, and I've got that one loosened. I'm about to take it off, so then I'll go back to the other side and take those loose. So we're getting closer. All right, so I'm taking these 4 large bolts out here. Get those out of the way. Well, where'd it go? There she is. All right, that done. We got these 7/16 to remove. Then there's some bolts way up underneath here I got to get to. That'll probably be a pain. We're working on it. All right, so I took my 4 7/16 screws out. This little plate is loose. Don't know if it'll come out. I guess there it goes. Alright, so we got that loose. Whatever it does. Back like a backing plate, I guess you call it. And I was going to see if I can get any movement on this thing. Got a little movement. Yeah. I need to get me some space where I can get up in there and get this plate out of the way. That's going to be my next ordeal. So let's work on that. All right, giving it an update. So in order to push this back, I have me a bar here. I just kind of shimmed it up between this plate. That pushed it. It went back pretty easy, surprisingly, even though it's all bent up so bad in there. So that gave me enough space to get me. Oh, by the way, these nuts I'm taking this plate loose. It is a 5/8 nut. You got 2 5/8 nuts there and 1/2 inch drive ratchet. So I got the one on the left side done. Now I just got to get this one out. And then we'll get this plate out of here. Remember, this is our main plate. This here, you see how it's strengthened up with these pieces of angle iron welded on here, because this is the main plate, the connection point for the ram. So all the pushing and pulling of this heavy room comes on this one piece. That's why they've had to strengthen it up here, and you can see how we got some damage where it got bent when the room got hung up. So let me get this plate out of the way. We're really close about getting this whole thing out, hopefully today. Okay, we got a nice big opening now. I just don't know if it's going to be big enough. Here's that big main plate that supports the room. So once you disconnect this, all the weight now on the room is transferred to these jacks. Because that's why there's just tremendous pressures on this thing as it's pushing in and out. So that's why we see all the damage we did back here. So I'm going to crawl back under now and take those 2 3/4 nuts loose and keep our fingers crossed that this crazy thing will come out of here. Alright, so I got this off. Almost got it to clear. Only thing that's holding it in right now is this one nut. So I'm going to take that nut loose, pry down on it a little bit, see if I can get lucky to get it out of this hole. I don't know if I'm going to be that lucky or not, but that's going to be my next step, because everything else is already removed and loosened. When you get that last nut off, be ready for it. I put me a block of wood here so it didn't have far to drop, because it is quite heavy. So don't be surprised. Be ready for it, let it catch itself. So yeah, I don't know what to do. This gusset's got me kind of tight. So I maybe go out front, try to get a hold of it, see if I can do some wiggling and yank it out that way. Just don't know what I'm doing yet, but we're learning. Well, folks, we're getting closer. You can see I'm getting this pulled out. It's starting to move little by little. All right, I may have to get some more muscle, try to get it out of this hole. But hopefully it'll be out here in just a second. We'll get it on the ground, see what it looks like. Well, I've got it up this far all by myself. Thing's pretty long. So I've always wondered what one of these things look like from the top side. So now I know. We'll finish getting this out and just see how bad everything's damaged. You can see. Oh yeah. Look how it's bowed down right here. I'll get a straight edge on it. We'll see how bad it is. Alright, let me show you what kind of damage we got. You see how badly bent this is. It's all buckled up. All that damage there. Both flippers are still intact. They're still down in there. But another scary thing I found in digging in the compartment box back here, I came across all these used parts. So it tells me someone else has done this job before. So all these components here they got that little wedgie dude. But the scariest part is I found a flipper. So we know this has happened before. So I'm the second guy into it. All these got replaced. None of them seemed really bad. I've seen a lot worse. But this is a weird failure. Check how that thing has got cut or dragged or worn. It's weird. And with all this crud, it almost looks like someone's had lithium grease on it. Possibly. But let me take you underneath, because I think I know the cause of the failure. I'm guessing at this. I just want to make sure, see if you agree with my theory. Okay, so I got under here. I'm gonna remove this roller. So I got under here. Let me get your angles, get you positioned here. This is the rear one. There was one in there, but it had these little brackets made, so it was useless. They've already been up in there, not supporting anything. So there was a roller here, but more or less non-functional. We only had two rollers, this roller and one right here, which I removed it. And that one was missing. But I'm assuming with the 38Js, they're critical about this corner. And you can see all these drag marks and the fact that this roller, actually he told me when he got into this roller was not here. There was some, while he was in Texas or something, they had ordered some rollers and they found out they couldn't get the brackets. So I'm hoping we can locate some brackets somewhere so I can get all four rollers put back in. But he said when they got under here, they was missing some rollers. And this looks new. I think he may have told me he thought these two inner ones was missing, only had the two outer ones. And I thought, well, if that's the case, these two inner ones, they're the ones that does the work when it goes in. Because if you take a straight edge on it, you know, you can see from this ramp here, it should make contact. These not so much. So I'm assuming, you know, because of our cutout here, this roller is more for the floor once it gets inside. That one's more for the floor. These two do the work of getting up over the ramp. Okay, so let me go take you and show you what we got inside. Oh, let me point out some more. See, look at the damage here. How much? I'm trying to figure out how in the world did that get buckled. But man, it took some strength. I don't know if it's pulling from this, and that's got some damage on it too. Let me show you from the front side. Because you can see it's pulling so hard. How it pulled this in. So the room must have really got hung up tight. And of course this, it looks fairly straight. It may have a little bit of bow in it. Let me show you what they did inside. I think that might be contributing to our problems also. Okay, so inside they've added new carpet. That may be an issue slightly. I don't know if it does. It's got pretty thick padding under it. thicker than what you'd normally find. I don't know if that's going to cause an issue or not, but that's one thing. About the more concerning thing is this flooring here, and you see where it's caught and moved it out of the way. So you can see it's pushed it past flush here. So my plan is to take this flooring up, get it out of the way, then go back with vinyl, linoleum, something later, because I think that's always going to be a problem. You see how it's broke the cabinet here, because they've added about a 1/4 inch to it. So when the room goes all the way out, it's lifted up on here and broke the cabinet. So anyways, that's what we look like. And the biggest thing is, when I put this back together, I want to make sure it doesn't happen again. Get it all dialed in, get it adjusted. Okay, I'm trying to figure out, looking at this, what is the point of failure? You can see how it's bent. I kind of understand how it works. We got a hydraulic ram hooks back here under this component, and then it hooks onto here, which is this solid piece that goes all the way out here, this saw piece. So we pull them from here to back there. So I don't know, is this a weight factor? Is it when it comes in, is it the fact the room itself hooks on something, it hangs up, and we have so much pressure because it can't come in? The 3000 psi ram doesn't care. It just keeps squeezing, and I can see where this could be the weakest link, for the length of this metal, and that's when it buckles. See when it's all done here. But then I get to looking at the flippers. See the damage down there? That flipper's still flopping around, it works. But this other one is stuck out. But look how it's all dug in there. So I question the flipper part. So when does the flippers get screwed up? Is it so much? When I get this apart better, I can figure out how these flippers operate. It looks like under normal circumstances they just drag slightly and then they open up and hit and lock in. But I don't know, maybe when it's under super high pressures they flip out. So is it a flipper failure? Is it a weight? Could it be overweight failure? As you can see how it's just bent the top of this. When you put a straight edge on it here, you see how much difference we have. So she's beyond repair, I'm sure. But can somebody tell me the point of failure? Because I want to make sure I put this back and get it solved. Because is there too much weight in here? Can that do it? Mechanism dry? I don't know. All right, well, let's take a look at this damage up close. I've been talking to HWH, trying to figure out what's causing this, and from what I gathered, it seems like it must be an overweight issue, and/or if when you replace these plastic pieces, and these have been replaced recently, if you don't get this shimmed in correctly, because what would happen, when you take these out, you have to spread it apart to get it out, to get these pieces out. I got videos on that. But when you reassemble it, you usually have to add some extra washers to these gussets on this side and this side in order to get this tighter. Because if you measure from this point to this point, say it's 5 inches from here to here, then on this point you want a little bit less than, because you really want a nice tight fit. If you got much of a gap here and you got a heavy load situation, risk on this flaring out and it dropping and causing all this chaos. Another thing I found that was shocking is for this, and I'll show you the specs here later, but for this entire room, you've got 2 of these assemblies. HWH says there should be no more than 500 pounds per rail. That's called a rail. And just look at this room. That room weighs more than 1,000 pounds. So we're asking a whole lot from this ram to lift up, on this ramping mechanism. Well, of course, it's all turned upside down right now, but I'm gonna get it a little bit more apart. These flippers, I just took a pry bar and opened it up a little bit wider, because that flipper was turned all the way. See that flipper down there? It was spun all the way around backward. So I gotta get these back because I gotta replace these flippers. So I got them back in here, and I found out this rail assembly here, the part that's bent, is like $1,200. It doesn't include any of this other mechanism, so I need to pull everything else out, get it apart, make sure everything else is okay before I order the parts. So that, oh, I was going to talk about this Acme threaded thing, you know, because this long rod here, that's the part that brings the room in case you have a failure. Say for instance, maybe your hydraulic pump fails, or you blow a seal on a hydraulic cylinder, and there's no way to bring the room in. So if you manually need to bring it in, that's what this does. And it hooks on this rod. I had to disconnect it because I got to get this apart. And this is called an Acme nut. Now sometimes you may find these stripped, and how they get stripped is, and I got a video on how to do a manual retraction on the HWH Room on the StoreMore level floor, or yeah, I think it's the name of this particular mechanism. And because the way it works is this little square nut slides in inside this aluminum pipe every time you bring it in and out. But if you have an emergency situation, you got to bring the room in, you crank on this nut forever, or crank on this rod forever, and it will slowly bring the room in. It'll bring this down. But what happens, sometimes people forget once they get to the repair shop, or they get the cylinder repaired, they replace the motor, you have to remember to unthread this all the way back, because you got to get this nut all the way back to the other end. Because if you don't, the first time you bring the room out, you're going to rip the threads out of it. Because that's why they make it plastic. It's sort of fail-safe. Because if they'd made it out of steel, it'd damage something. So because that 3,000-4,000 psi is unforgiving on things. That's why you get this kind of damage. Okay, so I'm going to start taking some more stuff apart. Okay, it wasn't so bad. You can see they don't look like these have been in there very long. But once I got those flippers flip back around the way they're supposed to be, it released the pressure. And I think I can get this out with one hand. There it is. There's some crazy flippers. I've always wondered how they work, so once I get this apart, we can figure it out. And there's our shims. Alright, let me get situated here, and now I got to try to pull this part out of this tube. Okay, I had to bring it down here to the garage. I had bigger sockets. This is a 1 1/8 nut, because this plate has to come off before I can get this pipe out. And if you don't know, this adjusts our tip, what they call tip in. When you bring in the slide room in, you want the top of the slide to touch the wall first, and then the bottom to button up. And you fine tune it with this adjustment right here. You get this nut off or loosen it, and you got an Allen wrench here, and the Allen wrench you'll need is a 5/16. And once I screw that down a few more turns, I'll eventually be able to get this pipe, or get this plate off the end. So that's what I'm working on now. So if you're wondering how this works, it's got this big threaded piece, because it has threads in it. And then this is our locking nut up here. So once it's in place, as you use your Allen wrench to screw it up or down, get it in the position, get the tip where you want it, and then you use the lower nut, you lock it in place so it stays put. And I noticed this one was like all the way, they had it as high as it would go. I'm thinking this must have been, now I'm beginning to believe this has been partially damaged, and they tried to compensate by doing a lot of adjustments. There's a whole lot of shims I noticed that don't look normal. There's a truckload of shims they've got on that thing. So I think someone's tried to halfway fix it and not go in and replace everything like they should. I don't know, that's my theory anyways. Okay, so to help facilitate the removal of this inner square tubing, I had to remove this, take a screwdriver and go with a skinny screwdriver here and start knocking this thing out here. Came out along with the one shim, so now I should have enough movement. I can get it to slide out, because it was tight, give me fits a minute ago. Well, got it all apart, I've taken a straight edge to everything. Everything looks good and straight, not bent. Kind of greasy and nasty. That's one thing, never put no grease on these things. it just makes a mess. All the road grime and stuff just sticks to it. I like to use a little, the RV, I know HWH says leave them alone, but it makes me sleep better at night putting a little bit of RV spray lube on there, that dry lube. I think it helps it operate just a little bit smoother, but it, it leaves behind no residue, so nothing sticks to it. You got no grit. And I got me a little steam jenny thing. I'm gonna try to steam this out, get it cleaned up good. Like I said, I don't like all these shims down here. That don't look like it right at all. So someone's been in there trying to compensate for something. So there we go. There's the innards, and there's our famous flippers. They're kind of dinged up. I'm gonna replace those. All right. So there we are. Fun. Look how dirty I'm getting today. Hey Randy, just thought I'd add this little bit of tidbit information for you. I was looking at this, and I'll send a picture to the gussets look good. They didn't seem flared out at all on the gusset side, on the RV side of the gussets. But you can tell someone's been in there monkeying around, I believe. Look at the number of shims they've got stacked in there. That seems excessive to me on both sides. So I believe they probably had some damage, and they went in here and put some new parts trying to compensate for the bent rail. Is my guess, because I also noticed on the tilt that adjustment there, it was what was it, all the way down? It was all the way at one end. I think it was all the way up as high as they could get it, probably maybe to compensate for the bend in the rail assembly. But and I was curious when I get the new assembly, because things are going to be a little bit different. Where do I start out at shim wise? Should I start, about 2 and 2 all the way around? That is a good question. And as far as reassembly goes, is it better to put this box in the rail first, or put that in the first? Sure, there's a sequence here we got to go by. As far as putting I guess we got the inner box, outer box, then the rail. I don't know the terminology, what you call this kind of stuff. But oh, it's something else I noticed. Where's the other piece? Hang on. Okay, you see how gouged these pieces are. They got big dips cut up. So I don't know the part number for these two plastic pieces. I'd like to get those also, because they got some big chunks dug out of them. I'd like to get that took care of. But there she is up close. Upside down, all bent up. Bad shape. And I'll show you these gussets again. Turn on the light. So they look pretty straight. But once I reassemble, I may have to add a couple of washers in there to keep everything as tight as possible. Fun. There you go. Alright, got it all apart, and the more I look at this, I received the part number from just the outer rail, I believe. This is the part number RAP91600. But after looking at this a little bit more closely, and talking to a friend of mine, let me tell you a quick story. Paul Stowe, it's got a 38J just like this, 2005. Maybe about 3 years ago or so, he had the same thing happen to him. He went out there to the factory, HWH, to replace just the outer piece, this here. But he said about 3 months later, it failed again. So the second time he went back, they replaced it all, the rail and all the inner pieces. So because this has already failed twice, I'm thinking that's going to be our better option. So I guess one thing is, if we can get a part number of all 3 pieces assembled. Because this, I see a lot of wear here. It's rounded off. It's got some gouges in the metal. And it's hard to tell. I don't know if it's awful strong, I know. But I don't know if there's any damage to this or not. But seeing this has failed twice already. And look at the overcompensation of shims they got in here. And they even somehow crazy. I don't know why they cut the timing bar support. That's crazy too. Kind of got some grease and stuff on it, so Someone's been here before making with it. I think would be wise if we can replace it all. And of course, here's the model number of this that came off the rail there. That's its model and serial number, AP33810. So if you could locate me a part number for the whole assembly would be great, I think. And of course, you can see how the flippers are. They're really beat up bad. So get that replaced up. But also, you know, if you have any opinion of, you know, how this failed, you know, I know, can it be weight? Is it the fact, you know, that these, maybe the guts, you know, it was left a little bit too wide, not shimmed up correctly? Or can sometimes these fail just because, like the bearing pads wear, and on 38Js are prone for hanging up in that rear corner because the room kind of tends to bow a little bit. If it hooks hard enough, is that ram strong enough to actually bend? And, you know, I'm assuming this is our weakest point. If the room hangs up, can this happen also? Just because, remember, this one was missing a roller or two. So maybe when it was coming in, but lack of rollers, it hooked really hard on that rear corner. So I'm still trying to locate a roller bracket at the moment, try to get that took care of. So anyway, there's my situation. I appreciate any help you can give me. Thank you, sir. Have a blessed day. See you. Bye. Okay, so where do I begin with this project? What you're looking at here is the rail assembly that supports the slide. It brings the slide in and out. And as you see, the whole assembly is removed because it has failed. And this is not a how-to video, but it's sort of more or less a warning video, because I'm trying to figure out why these failed. I think this is maybe either an overloading situation or the room jammed up and it failed. So this does happen. It's not super common, but it can happen. And I've done some research, and I think I know why it's happening. A lot of it may be to overloading. What shocked me is, looking at the documentation, the weight limit on these per rail, we got 2 rails, one on each side per slide room. The weight limit is 500 pounds per rail, so 1,000 pounds total. So stand back and look. That's I believe that's a 16-foot slide. So inside that slide, on the slide, you got a recliner, you got a couch, you got the microwave oven, the cooktop, all your pots and pans, a little bar section, countertop section. You know that's over 1,000 pounds when I left the factory, I imagine. And then when you put all the stuff in storage, you're really stressing it. Now this particular RV, it's a Winnebago Adventurer, a 38J floor plan. So this is what we're looking at. So you can see what happens when they get overloaded. All this stresses out, it flares out. The inner pot tubes drop down. Those flippers dig in and see what kind of damage they cause. It bends all this stuff up. Now, the gentleman called me. He was just a couple months ago. It's all started when he was in Texas. Got his room out, couldn't get the room back in. In fact, the room was, when it was tried to come in, it was coming in at a real steep angle. I think I got a picture for my thumbnail of this video. But instead of the room sitting like this, it was like this going in. I think he said even the room itself was trying to dig into the ceiling of the RV. It was coming in so steep. And the way that they finally got it in, they got some big pieces of plywood, some floor jacks, and slowly jacked the slide up as they used the hydraulics to bring it in. So they finally got it in, and he got it to me, and this is what we're dealing with. You know, I should point out, you know, this is not my daily gig working on RVs. I took this job on because, well, one thing, we also own a 38J. So I thought, well, if it's happened to him and it happens to me, I want to know all about it. I've been into these rooms quite a bit, doing adjustments, changing out these nylon slides, which is, you know, an ordeal in itself. But it was always somewhat of a mystery how these flippers operated. So now that I got one apart, I understand it better. But we're waiting on parts right now. Once we get these parts in, we'll get it all back together. Then I'm doing a full video of how I removed everything and how it goes back together. But let's talk about, okay, why this fails. What are weight limit here? So I got our specs here. Now this applies particularly to, like, I think Winnebago calls this the StoreMore flat floor. That's what they call it. And HWH calls it the Space Maker level out. So a couple different names. The whole idea is the older Winnebagos, like 2003, 2002s, the room just came straight in, or went straight out, straight in. It didn't drop down level. This is the mechanism that makes it drop down level. That's the complicated part. You got all these different linkages and flippers and all that stuff. And when it works great. But when it goes bad, and it gets expensive. So once I got it here, I started taking it all apart and digging into it. And he told me he had a bunch of spare parts left over. And so I was digging through the spare parts, because I think he's only owned this RV for about 3 years. Someone else had it before him. He really didn't know what was done. And so I got to digging through these parts and seeing all kinds of parts here, man. So someone had been all through this RV. But the scary part was, in digging through those parts, I found a flipper. So that tells me somebody has done this job before. So it's my job to do it again, but to do it right. So I'm assuming, I just really don't know what they did, but I've ordered the whole assembly. We got the outer rail and the two inner rails, or whatever they're called. I don't know if that's not called a rail, I don't think. Okay, I had to look it up on my paperwork. These are called extension tubes. You got stage 1 and stage 2 inner extension tubes, because it's a telescoping outfit. It slides out, extends until the room gets fully extended. So that's where we're at with that. So get this paperwork out of my way. But like here, it shows you right here, the weight per arm is 500 pounds. It's just kind of shocking to me. But here's another thing: the force of the cylinder extending and retracting, maximum is 2100 psi. Now I know our pump minimum pressure, I believe, is 3400 psi. They want to see to operate the hydraulic system. So if that thing can develop 3400 psi, I'm assuming then if this gets wedged, jammed up, when sometimes the room comes in and it gets out of adjustment too bad, it'll hook in the corner. And if you're not watching, pay attention, you're just pushing on that button to retract it. I'm wondering if these cylinders will go on up to 3400 psi, and maybe that's what causes the collapse. It just got so much power. Or maybe it's just the fact it's just the weight itself. It's overweighted, and it can't take it no more, and it separates. Now they did say there's another way it can happen, is the gussets. Whenever you change out these plastic, those are white pieces, and I've done a couple of videos on them. When you change those out, I use those plastic chainsaw wedges to open this up to get a gap so you can replace them. And when you do that, sometimes you spring the gusset, and you have to make up for it and add a couple of washers, because you got to keep this tight, keep those tolerances good. The distance between here and here can be no more than 5 inches and 50 thousandths. If that springs open the least bit, then it's going to allow these parts to drop down. When it drops down, then when you try to retract it, the flippers are going to flip out and just destroy everything. Let me show you what I'm talking about under the RV. Okay, let's see. Yeah, right there. There's the gussets right there. So you want to make sure those gussets are no more than 5 inches and 50 thousandths at the bottom. You want to make sure that is tight to keep it wedged in. But and this one was at spec, so I don't think that was a problem. I do think there's another possibility it could be is because of the flooring has been changed. Let me show you some damage that's inside. Okay, you can see here the floor has been changed, because this originally came out with linoleum, and so it was very thin, and they had laminate put in here, and you see where it's hit and already pushed it forward. In fact, it pushed it all the way past this lip. So I'm wondering if that could be part of the cause, because I believe I'm going to have to pull this up, when I go to put this back together, because it's raised this level up. Everything's up now almost a quarter inch higher than what it was originally, and you can see what it's done to this extension here on the countertop. It has split the wood, because now this it's used to coming down and sitting on linoleum, but now it's a quarter inch higher. So when the room went all the way out, it's cracked it and separated the wood. So on these 38Js, they are sometimes prone. There's aluminum square tubing, runs all the way from one end to the other, 16 feet. And our rail assembly is kind of up over here somewhere. And there's so much weight. We got so much weight here. You got your pots and pans, you got your microwave oven, the cooktop, and that part, that that rail tends to bow a little bit. In fact, years later they came up with out with a fix for it. Is where you take the room partially out and you put another rail inside of it. It's a big job, probably like a 2-day job or something like that. Never seen it done. Don't know that I'd want to do it. But this one doesn't look too awful bad. Mine does bow quite a bit, but I'm wondering if that can sometimes happen. So that's another thing. Whenever you bring your room in, be sure and watch it, or have someone else watch it. You push the retract button, or then watch it come, or have someone else push the button. You watch it come in. Make sure both sides are coming in at equal speed. If it starts coming in and one side hangs up, stop, take it back out, see what the problem is. Because I think that could happen too. If you just push the button, you got 3,400 psi pressure pulling that thing in. If it happens to hang up on here or hang up on some wood, that ram doesn't carry, just keeps pulling and just starts buckling stuff. So that's another possibility. Okay, I want to try to explain how these flippers work. It's kind of difficult where it's not assembled, but I'm trying to convey the idea of how it works. So when the room is all the way in, the flippers are out. And these flippers will be locked into this square hole on both sides. So, because these flippers control at what point it starts to go down the ramp. So when you go to extend the room, the hydraulic ram is connected back here, and it's also connected, there's a hole, well it's connected right here, there's a hole. So that's where the hydraulic ram connects to. Starts pushing, and it pushes, and you got this little, you see this little part right here, that's what starts pushing this out. I think I got to try and do this in one hand. So you're pushing the out button. The room, at this point, the room is going out, the room is going out. It's not started to drop down yet, it's just sliding across the carpet. So it slides across the carpet until it reaches the point to the flippers. There you go, see there's where the flippers released. Just about an inch before it starts pushing the secondary, what's called stage 2, I think to call it. Before it starts pushing it, you'll notice the flippers release. So they flip in, the moment they flip in, then it starts pushing it all the way out. And then at the moment it does that, because it releases from the square hole and it starts going down that ramp. I'm going to try to flip this all back over and put it back together and kind of show you a little bit of how it works. Okay, here's what it looks like when it's assembled and mounted in the RV. And you see how much damage we got, how much it bent that. Now that takes a lot of power. Think about that. I mean, you got these two big angles, and it was enough to bend all that down. So, but you can see here's there's a hole. That's where a hydraulic ram hooks to, which is tied into that ties into this inner tube. So when it starts to retract, you see these plastic wedges. They're the ones that tend to break a lot because they got a lot of weight on them. So as it's coming up this rail right here. So it's a highly stressed point. So it's coming up this rail, super high loads, and that's when it buckles. Either due to just flat out too much weight, or remember your gussets, if the gussets aren't done right and it flares out, lets it drop down, or the fact that the room hangs up on something and the ram doesn't carry, it just keeps pulling. Doesn't matter what you hit, and something's going to give because it's kind of pulling at an angle anyway. It's kind of going up at an angle to its mounting point. And she buckles up on you. Look at the damage those flippers do. Because once it buckles, then the flippers flip. Well, you see how the flippers are right there. There it is. You see the flipper how it's flipped out, and that's what digs in and really makes a mess. Now, I'm gonna go. What kind of concerned me, I went and looked at ours. Ours is showing some signs of bowing, so I'm gonna go show you what ours looks like, and so maybe you can expect yours also. Oh, before I go crawl underneath our RV, I wanted to show you how you gotta be careful when you do this, because you have to support the room. Now, fancy RV places, they have little forklifts, like little mini forklifts. They have one on each end of the room to support it. So I had to come up with my own forklift. So I got me these big long 4x4 posts. See, that goes all the way through to the other side, and got these jacks here at Harbor Freight, and that's what's holding the room. Because when you take that rail out, there's nothing to support the room. It just fall out on you. So that was my solution, and it's worked. And then of course you also got to support the bottom storage too, because it's kind of on a thin metal here. It could swing out and cause damage. It's always something. All right, let's head to, that's called the Pooh house. That's where we keep our RV. Her little nickname is Pooh. after Winnebago. Sweet Pea thought, okay, Winnebago, Winnie the Pooh. We're just going to call her Pooh for short. So that's the name of our RV. So let me get under here and we'll see what we can find. Well, before I crawl on the RV, I just wanted to show you, see, I try to always store light stuff in ours, especially on this 38J, because I know this is a weak point on this back end. So I put like the dish tailgaters light, you know, water bottles, storage, anything that's light I put here. And you can talk about, remember I was talking about the gussets, see where I've had to add shims. Let's get some light on it. There we go. See, I've had to add some shims here to keep my tolerances good and tight. You see there's some shims on that side. So that part looks good, but I did notice some bowing when I was under there last. Like, right now it looks okay, but let me put some weight on it and then crawl under the RV and see what, I'm gonna bring the room out partially and then crawl under there. Okay, so I'm underneath ours. And let me see, can you tell? Let me rotate here a little bit. There is some bowing. I got a straight edge. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I don't knock myself in the head. Okay, so I got a straight edge. See that gap? So mine's trying to bow a little bit. It's under stress. The other side is not. It's good and straight. But I'm toying with the ideal of strengthening it up. So I got me some, what size is this? A 1/8 angle iron, 3/4. I'm toying with the ideal of cutting me a piece and possibly welding it, you know, in here. Back up a little bit, you know, from this point to this point. Put me some welds in there and across the bottom. That would strengthen it up. Toying with the idea, thinking about it anyways. But another thing is concerning. I can feel a little bit of a hump right here, where those flippers are sliding up through. And also, if you look closely, see that roll of metal? Let me get my finger in there. See that metal that's rolled out? Right there. Sharp piece of metal where there's so much pressure on those flippers when they're coming in and out. So I think, because I'm always diligent about using an RV dry lube, and you can see I don't know what I got a hold of. I've got a hold of a different brand that left behind a white color for some reason. But I'm always concerned about, you know, getting these things to slide as easy. Of course, as a reminder, never put no silicone, no grease, nothing like that. I know HWH says leave them dry, but it makes me feel better. I sleep better not putting a little RV dry lube on there. Try to keep things sliding as easy as possible. But now that I understand a little bit better how it works, I'm going to try to focus more when I go in here about you know, spraying under here where these loads are. And because I like spraying it like in this gap right here, so it'll run down in that little trough and where that plastic piece slides. But now that I understand how it works, I'm going to try to focus more and spray me some dry lube right up here on the back side where that flipper drags all the time. So it's just something to think about. And another video, I'm still waiting on HWH to ship me the assembly. Once we get all those parts, we'll get all that reassembled, put back together. It'll make for an interesting video. So get his working. And oh yeah, another thing about his, you can see we got 4 rollers here. On his RV, 2 rollers were missing. So I've got the brackets. The brackets are gone. So the person that got a hold of it before me, I just don't know what all they was thinking or what they was doing, but they didn't do it right, I don't believe. Anyways, I guess we're going to wrap her up. Just wanted to get this word of warning out there for you, not to overload your HWH slide. And if you're calling here and check yours, make sure it's not bowing out. Check your tolerances, make sure it's nice and tight. And there you go. All right, have a blessed day, y'all. See ya. Bye. Well, it's been over 30 days. I don't know how long, 4 or 5 weeks. We finally got our new HWH Rail assembly came in. You see the big old box, big crate it came in. I think like 165 pounds. Nice big heavy outfit. But I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show you, because I have the old part and the new part side by side. Looking at the design, nothing has changed. You know, in 20 years, it's identical. Of course, you remember earlier in the video how this has all been bent and distorted. So much damage took place. And a reminder that these per rail assembly can only support 500 pounds. You get 2, so it's a 1,000 pound total. When you stand back and look at that room, what's in the room, what's in the storage, you can quickly exceed 1,000 pounds. And then when you do that, this is the kind of damage you get. But I'm still trying to get in my mind, you know, what's the key component of, I think it's weight, because you see how this is bent so bad. Got this big gap here, you know, where the rest is all flat, so it buckled up. I do know, because we do have our flippers, but our flippers are applying some pressure, but I don't think a tremendous amount, because you can see where it pushes against, because this is our stage 1 pipe, inner pipe. So as it's coming up the ramp, that flipper is sitting right here. You can see its wear point. So it's pushing really close to this pivot point. It's not like it's pushing here. We'd have a whole lot of pressure. It's got some pressure, and I know it drags some. Of course, you can see the drag marks, but I think the bulk of this came from when it buckles up, opens up, the flippers flip out like this, and then the hydraulic ram has so much pressure, it just drags it on through and really distorts it. So I know it's probably a combination of both, but I think, you know, also it looks like I did my degree thing. I think it's like a 30-degree ramp. So when you're pulling up that ramp and you're overweight, too much stuff in there, too many knives and forks and pots and pans, and this is the result. So we don't want that to happen anymore. So I guess thinking about that. So that's because I was looking at we also have a 38J just like this one, identical. And I was looking at ours, and I noticed it's starting to bow slightly. So that's got me a little concerned. So I got me some metal here. Let me see what size this is. It is, we got 1/8 by 3/4. Picked this up at Lowe's. Took my hacksaw to it, and I thought about doing something like this. Now, I'm not going to do this to customers, because I don't know the implications of warranty, or not. I don't know about, you know, the welding that's going to heat it up, cause any issues. But I thought about maybe for mine someday, if I feel froggy, go in there and lay this little angle in there. I believe maybe some of you out there watching as an engineer, you could see if I'm doing it, because we can't do anything on the inside. There's not enough space. It's too tight. If we're going to do any reinforcement, it's got to be on the outside. But I think that would be a pretty cool deal. Run us a few spot welds across the top and across the bottom, and that would strengthen up this weak area where we get all this buckling. That was my thought anyway. So maybe in a future video we can do that project. Also, I want to talk about, well, remember that there's the specs on that thing. See, 500 pounds per arm. Scary. Talk about all the all the adjustments on this thing, because we have we got 5 different adjustments I wanted to point out to you. So that's gonna be fun when it comes to putting this together later tonight. So of course, first of all, you can see you got an adjustment back here. This is called for the room drop. It controls how much the room drops down at stopping point. So if your room is dropping too low or not dropping low enough, you fine tune it right here. The cylinder itself has an internal stop to it. When it goes all the way out, it stops. That's the stopping point. So that's an adjustment there. Now there's another adjustment when it comes to retraction, when it's coming in. So when the room comes in, this particular style, you have stop bolts right here. So you adjust these. So you have to dial that in correctly so you don't break the flange off this right here. So that adjustment is critical. Now on other models, now ours, even though it's the same year, it's a little bit different. Ours has a stop bolt right here. It goes in, and it's a real long bolt, and it hits the end of this center pipe, and that's the stopping point. So to adjust how far the room goes in, before you got either a long bolt right here, it's going to, because it's upside down, but it ends up hitting this, and it stops it from moving. That's on our 38J. I don't know why they're slightly different from one model to the next. So that's right. So we got room drop, got the inner, the outer. We got the tipping point. That's this big bolt here. When the birds are noisy tonight, ain't they? So your tipping point adjustment. So that is when you're bringing the slide in. As you bring the slide in, you'll notice you want the top to hit first, then the bottom will pull in. And that's the tip. So what that does, it raises or lowers this ever so slightly. Because remember, the sole weight of the room is all attached to this end plate right here through this big metal plate. That big old plate there. And that plate bolts in this hole and supports the room. So we got that adjustment, and then we got, of course, then we also got these slots here that we have to be adjusted, and then of course we have the up and down to get the room, you know, the vertical position and the big square box. We got to get that dialed in, and you also got your side adjustments, these right here, to adjust it horizontally in the hole. So there's a lot going on with this mechanism, so it's going to be quite interesting. Put it all together, and got to get purge out the line, got to get the cylinders synchronized and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to get started on this. Alrighty folks, step one is to try to get this big old heavy thing, here it is, up in that long hole by myself. We'll see how it goes. Wish me luck. Let's try. So before I put that in here, remember I was talking earlier about the other stop bolt for when the room comes in. There's a big long bolt that goes through here, and it comes in contact with this piece right here. So that's your adjustment on some models. That's your stop point. That's the way ours is. But for some reason, this one they put the stops at the other end, and you can see that, get an idea how it looks like from above. This is the part you never can see when it's all assembled. So we'll see if we can't wedge it up here in this hole and get this project started. Alright, I came up with this idea, seeing I'm working by myself tonight. I put two befores there. That kind of helped keep it level as it's going back in there, and to help clear the gas lines and stuff I was trying to bang against. But that is worked out pretty well. So I'm getting pretty close. Inch by inch. As you can see, I'm getting closer. I'm using these little blocks of wood to help support it as I slowly inch it back. And about to the point I'm going to crawl underneath the RV now and see how much I got. Yeah, I still got quite a ways to go. Just taking our time, But you can see I shimmied up these boards here. I can push it pretty easy. Alright. Just crawl underneath there and see what we can see. Alright, under the RV now, and you can see we got to get this bracket to this gusset. And about 1.5 feet to go, but before we do that, I need to get my rollers installed. If you remember earlier in this video, we had 2 brackets that were missing, roller brackets. So I got those from Winnebago. That took about 30 days to get also. Everything's 30 days or more, it seems like. So I'm going to get those assembled, get all 4 rollers in place. We'll do that first before I start working this back further. And yeah, hopefully it'll all go smooth. So if you wonder how these rollers work, they're spring loaded on one end. So you push in on it. So it's got that little hexagon hole to fit into. You push in. And you line it up. Kind of hard to do with one hand. There it goes. And it jumps in place. You add the washers as long as you have it in play. And then you just go up there and pop it up in that hole. I got 2 more to go. Got these put in, they're rolling good. Got 2 more to go. I'm going to show you my little trick here in order to get this sled in here fairly easy. I got me a 2x4 sitting there. And it carries the weight and it slides fairly easy. And you can see I just got a little bit to go. See, I'm only about an inch or so away. So I don't like much scooting it back, getting it lined up. Then I just got to get it picked up and get started on these big bolts. So I'm getting closer. Okay, I'm going to show you how I got this up in here by myself. So it took me a 2x4 laying on the ground. I pushed up all the way, and when I pushed up, I was able to line up with those bolts. Once I got it over the studs, when I took the weight off of it, it cocked sideways just enough to hold it. And that gave me enough time to reach up there and get a nut started. So I got a nut on both sides. So I got that done. Now I gotta go to the other side and get those nuts in place. Well, you see, I finally got them. I used these boards, kind of shimmed it up, and that helped tremendously. Oh, now I got hydraulic oil in my eyes. Ah, that's just great, just great. Alright, you'll see we're at the far end of the rail assembly. See, right here, right next to the steps. And I'm pretty happy with its position here, where it's at in the slot. Got about a 1/4 inch to go, because the upper 3/4 nut I left in place. I mean, it's not been moved from the factory position, so I only loosened the lower ones. So I'm just going to tighten this up. That should be in good shape. And then I can measure my distance maybe and kind of get it close to the other side. Try to get it dialed in. Hopefully we'll get it right the first time. And remember on this slot, so you got to be kind of careful on this, the position on the slot, because if you go too far this way, when you go to extend the room out, you'll apply too much pressure to the flange of the room and cause damage to it. So you want it to go out just far enough to compress the seal, the inner seal on the flange of the room. Because remember, our stopping point is controlled by the cylinder when it goes out. It's an internal stop built into the hydraulic cylinder. So that's what I'm going to do. Is we'll tighten that up. Oh, and of course I hooked up my hydraulic lines. I was going to mention, these are handy to have because you need line wrenches. But these fittings here, I keep a bag of them. These are called I think they're called AN fittings. I think it stands for Army Navy, or hydraulic fittings number 4. That's the thread. That's the fitting you need. So I got these. I guess those are called plugs. I got some caps. Yeah, there's 2 caps. I got a coupler that come in handy if you ever get a room that racks on you real bad and you got to kind of manipulate the pressure applied to one cylinder or another. Had a situation where the room was really racked bad, and those fittings came in handy, so I could manipulate the hydraulic pressure just to one rail assembly, and in order to get it unracked because it was racked bad. So we'll tighten this up, and then we'll go back to the other side and do some more adjusting. So you need your 3/4 deep well socket. Get up in here and get it snugged up. I'm just going to snug it for now, and then when if I'm happy with its position, I'll come back in here with a cheater pipe and really get it tight, so I know it don't go nowhere. Okay, I'm doing a little bit of a change. Remember, when I set this up, I got these 4x4 posts supporting it all the way through. I've removed the support off this one and done it a little bit different. You see how I got my jack? Just got a board just on the edge here instead of all the way across. Reason being is I want to be able to operate that cylinder, stroke it in and out a couple times to make sure they're both in sync, get the air out of them. And I can't do that because it's going to hit my 4x4 post. So I'm going to go over here and take this jack, do the same thing, loosen it, rotate it around, and get it to support up under this. And then I'll hopefully be able to get the air out of these cylinders. Alright, so here's my new support set up. Still got my big 4x4 going all the way across. And in hindsight, if you have 4 of these farm jacks, you might be able to just do 4 like this, just on this outer edge, and not have to buy these long 4x4 posts. But of course, this is my first attempt at this project, so like I said, I'm just winging it, so I'm learning as I go. Well, you ain't gonna believe this, but it's 3:15 in the morning. I got my sweet pea up in the RV. She's gonna operate the cylinders. What I'm doing is make sure we get the cylinders synced up and purge out the air, And you see I got me some 2x4s there. Got that cylinder wedged up so it'll fully extend and not hit anything because it's not attached to the room. And the new one that I just installed over here is not hooked up yet. So I'm gonna have my Sweet Pea push the extend. Go ahead, honey, push the extend button. Just let it go all the way till it labors, till it stops. Okay. All right. So it's fully extended. We've already done this about 3 times. I think we're getting in good synchronization. I'm going to go to this side and show you what it looks like. And this would be pretty cool because this way you actually kind of get to see it work when it's not attached to a room, which is something you normally never get to see because normally all that is coming in. And you'll notice as soon as it retracts, it'll quickly go up this ramp. And you see a little flip, a little flipper up here too. All right, try to get in a good position. This would be good. This would be good. All right, can you hear me, honey?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Get my. Okay, hit the full retract all the way. The telescope's in. See a little flipper there. Okay, good. Thank you, buddy. All right, I'm gonna watch this flipper this time. Let's see how that flipper operates. Try to get in a good position. Yeah, okay, honey, fully extend. Watch the flipper work. Pretty cool. Okay, honey, bring it back in. Very smooth. Okay, that's good. I think we're all fully synchronized. It's all looking good. All right, so next step, I need to go back there and get that cylinder in the right position. So I got to get it slid up inside that pipe and pin it. Getting closer, ain't we? Okay, so my next little challenge is to get that square end of that cylinder up inside of this, well, inside this pipe right here. So, and that pipe starts right up here. So as Sweet Pea extends it out, I'm gonna have to try to guide it up in this hole. So let me probably get 2 hands on that situation. Okay, you see I got kind of using this 2x4 to line it up. Okay, honey, hit the button just a little bit.
To go out or
to go out.
Okay. Just bump it?
Yeah, just bump it. Bump again. You can bump and hold. Okay, do that same thing again. Looking good, keep going. Again. Okay, I think we're in. Okay, push and hold.
Going out?
Yeah, going out.
Are you okay?
I'm okay. Whoa. All right, now, you see it just passed here, so I got to get that hole lined up. Oh my goodness, can you believe that? Sweet Pea, you did such a great job. You stopped it right at the perfect spot. Never do that again in 100 years. So now we got that. I've got my bag of parts down here. All I gotta do is put that pin in place. So I'm gonna get me, so I've got me this pin here. I'll use that to hold it from one side, from the back side. And then I'll push this pin through this side because I can see that it's lined up that way. And then I'll put my clip on it. And that's how we're gonna do that. Well, like I said, I got that pin in there. And I'm using it to line this hole up. Get it in position. And put this in there. But like I said, there she goes. Alrighty. So you push it out. Alright, so I'm going to have to push that in, rotate. Alright, I'm going to have to tap it just a little bit, and then I'll get on the back side and carefully put my other little E-ring on it. I'll have that done. Thanks to Sweet Pea's help. Okay, so I need to back up a little bit. The pin I just put in, I had to pull the pin back out because I got these synchronized, but when I put my pin in, this was too far out and I couldn't get this big metal plate in place. So I had to pull my pin out, and I just got a piece of metal in my finger. Looky there. Ow, that hurt. Jeez. Well, let me get that pulled out first. Look at there. Well, that's how you know you're getting some work done when you get hurt. Okay, metal is out. Anyway, so I pulled the pin. I retracted the cylinders just an inch or so. But I also realized I'm going to have to lower, you know, those two big long threaded bolts, the two nuts. I'm going to take them to the very end so I can get this to drop down. So that'll help me line up all these bolts. And once I bolt it up, then I can tighten it up because that's going to start lifting up on this room. So it's a learning curve, but we're getting there. Okay, like I mentioned, I run those bolts all the way to the end. So that's lowered this end of the ram, which really lowered that a lot out on the end. So hopefully I can get that big metal plate in there and get my bolts lined up and get that part assembled. Okay, this large plate, I just got it installed, and to do that you're going to need a 9/16 deep well socket and put it up in here like this. There you go, with that extension, and go to town on it. Get it good and tight. We got that done. Good and strong, and I got these support plates I got to deal with and remember how they go. Okay, this is looking better. I've extended it out. See, I've just got a little bit of gap here left. So I'm gonna go extend it just one more time and see if I can't get it to touch. And then I got to get these plates and all these bolts in place and do some adjusting. Okay, so what I've been doing, I've been tightening this up and tightening this one up slowly so I can get my alignment. Try to get these plates, the rear plate and the front plate, they both, you can just see the lip of the front plate. So I want to kind of get them both the same. It's pretty close to what the other side looks like. So now I can tighten up all these bolts here out front, get them good and tight. After I do that, then I can finish and tighten these bolts up. When I do that, that's going to start lifting the room up. Because at the moment there's really no, it's not pushing up on it yet, but it will shortly. So if you're in question of the starting point, so I'm looking at the other side. It's original. It's never been taken apart, and you see both plates are kind of flush at the bottom here. So that's kind of what I'm doing over here. Got it pretty well flush. So now I can tighten all these up, and hopefully it'll get me pretty close. You'll see I'm back to the other side now, putting my pin back in, for the cylinder. And this time I'm putting the pin in from the back side because I got the pump and stuff. It makes it kind of tight to get the clip on. This way I have more room to work. There it goes. Because sometimes I've had this happen to me before. Where'd my little clip go? Let me find it. Just to let you know, I found my little E-clip. Sometimes when you go to put this on, it'll snap and it'll fall down in this hole. If it does, it'll be trapped down in here. So you have to get you like a little plastic zip tie, poke around here, and you can fish it back out. So I've made that mistake in the past. So just got to get me a wide screwdriver and apply pressure to get that pin snapped in place. Okay, that worked out pretty smooth. Got it snapped in place. So, because the E-clip's already on the other side, so got that part done. And now I need to see about getting the adjustment, this position here, the height of it, because this is the old one here, and I don't know if it's positioned correctly or not. It looks a little bit high to me. It looks like a little more threads, but I noticed they put new carpet in. It's thicker carpet, and it may have to be a little bit higher to get up over that thicker carpet, possibly. So anyways, that's our next step. Let's try to get these leveled up best we can. Then we got the timing bar to put on and get this thing all adjusted. All kinds of fun yet to go. Okay, back to the new side, and you see here I'm about to make my adjustment. I went and looked at our RV, and I noticed ours, this section here is just below the gusset, just a tick. So that's going to be my starting point. I'm going to tighten those bolts up. It's going to raise this up to get it almost flush, not quite. And I think it'll be a good starting point, possibly for both sides. And then we'll go from there. Okay, I got this kind of where I want it. You see I've added some shims here because these have been flexed out some, so you always want to keep this bottom section as tight as possible. If these gussets have been flared any, you need to put a shim in there to keep things tight as possible, because you want to keep this close. If it flares out, you know what happens. Everything drops down. Things go bad in a hurry. And it's time to put this little piece on here. Get that adjusted so it supports the weight of the room, the storage compartments. Okay, I know I showed you this earlier, but I thought I'd show it once it's assembled in place. My little reinforcement ideal. I don't know how that would play out, but it might be a good ideal. Maybe if you had one that was starting to bow and you wanted to save some money, if you could squeeze it back and then weld a piece like this in place. I think put it in position. There you go. Something like that. If we had something like that in there and kind of welded in place, that makes for a whole lot better, stronger situation. Keep these from bending like they do. Anyway, that's my thought. May do that on ours someday if I feel froggy. Be some tricky welding, but I got a little MIG welder. I might be able to get in there and get it done. I'm not for sure if this is galvanized or if that's just a spray paint. Maybe it's just a spray paint, but it may have to be cleared off before any welding goes on. Just a thought. All right, well, I got the timing bar out here. This big old long piece, it goes the length of the room. It supports the weight of the room as it's going up and helps transfer the weight as it goes onto the rollers and gets onto the floor. But I wanted to point out to you what a catastrophic failure this has had in the past. Because you see here, someone's get some more light on it. There you go. See, that's a weld. So someone has welded this back at some point in time. And what happens, because it normally, I'm going to flip it. Okay. So it normally sits like this. And it lifts up and helps carry over. But I have seen this before, and you can see where it's been hitting. If you, like I warned about watching your paint lines, if your paint lines get out of alignment, if it gets too far, as things wear with time, as the room comes out, the glide shoe will come in contact with this. It'll hit it so hard, it'll bend it over. And when it bends it over, it will bend this piece, and that's what's happened. It must have bent it so hard, it cracked the aluminum. So I'm pretty sure it's aluminum. It looks like it. And they've welded it back because there was a weld on the other end also. Remember, I'm the second guy to get a hold of this. This has had a lot of work done to it in the past, and I'm trying to get it back in working order. But just as a reminder, when you take your rooms in and out, if you hear some weird noises, you need to stop and investigate. You need loud popping, cracking, see what's going on, see what's making that noise before something bad happens. Okay, remember I just talked about adding those washers to the gussets. And here's why. Here's a better example of what not Winnebago, but HWH wants you to do, because we want to keep these dimensions good and tight. You don't want this to flare out at all. But a lot of times these gussets can flare out after you've maybe went in there and put in these plastic nylon pieces. They'll be flared out, and you got to compensate with some washers. So that's a critical thing to do and keep an eye on. Also, you know, we've got to talk about all these different adjustments. There's like 5 different adjustments here on these floors, but nowhere in the HWH information does it talk about the timing bar. That's that big long bar I'm about to put in now. And I'm going to try to reach out to Winnebago, see if they have any written instructions on dialing in the timing bar, its exact settings. I've always kind of winged it in the past, but I would like to get some documentation if I can find it. Alright, so we want to get this bolt down as low as we can to have enough room to get the timing bar in place. So I'm going to put this in about 1/4 inch. And then I'll get this started up here. Okay. And then as I rotate this down, kind of hold it. Well, actually it goes like this with those holes. Go this way. Hold it still, so that way as it gets toward the bottom, well, you know, this will be almost down here and this will be down here, because it's one's right hand thread and one's left hand thread, so it just takes a little while to twist this down. Hopefully you get the ideal. And the threads are a little bit tight. Actually, this is a new bolt here because the old one was bent so bad, so I got to get a wrench on it now. But as you wrench this down, hold it, don't let this flop around, because that way it'll slowly, you'll see when I'm done here, the gap will close up. Alright, I'm almost there. You see how it just keeps getting closer and closer. Alright, it's starting to snug up now. So that way, hopefully this will give me enough room to get the timing bar on top of this. And then once we get that, then we turn this, I call it a jack bolt, I turn it the other way, it'll start pushing up and apply pressure to the bottom of the floor and support it. It was a tight fit, but it rolled in. I was able to come at it like a 45-degree angle, then roll it. See how it fits right in this little track. So we got that part done, and we're going to get these little brackets in place and get all the bolts installed loosely. Goes up in there, so like that. So let me get some bolts, and I'll probably have to get me some little pry bars and manipulate it, get all that lined up. Alright, so I'm ready now to do some adjustments on the timing bar. Got all my brackets installed. Everything's still loose because we have to use this, remember this jack bolt. If you turn this, every time you turn it, it goes up a little higher until we close up that gap. Now, this is where I need to get some details. I haven't found out exactly how they want this timing bar dialed in. I always try to get some pressure on the room, you know, because that's its job, is to support the weight of the room as it transitions from the floor over to this bar. So I always just get a little attention on it. If I hear the room lifting a little bit, then it's kind of my stopping point. Because if you go too high, like I've talked about before, this is the part we'll catch. As the room is coming out, remember this is stationary, and the room comes out, and this has to clear this. But sometimes if it don't, it'll catch. It'll catch on the back side over here, and this will bend over like it had in the past, and it broke it and it had to be welded back. But I've seen that several times. That's why you want to listen as you're going out. If you hear some loud popping, these things start to catch. And when that takes place, that's when you need to start getting in here and make some adjustments and keep that from happening. All right, back over to the new side that I replaced. I've got it adjusted the same, so I've got it up now so the rollers won't roll. I listen and I'll watch the room raise up just a little bit as I was tightening up this bolt. So getting close to making a little test run, see what will happen. I just got to get these jacks and stuff out now and let the room float on its own. Alright, So I've got my first preliminary adjustments in. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't have the engine running, but I do have a battery charger on it to give me some extra amps. So let's try bringing it in and see what it sounds like. Sounded pretty good. Okay, let's go outside and see what our paint lines look like. Okay, let's check out our paint lines. Okay, we're just a tick low here on the left side. But when we started this project, you see how low it was to begin with when it first got here. This corner was digging into the paint, so it was almost like 5/8 down. It wouldn't even close up because it's hitting so bad. So got it pretty close. Probably have to, yeah, come up maybe one full turn of a nut, possibly. You see what a mess of tools I got scattered all over here. This project, and this side here, yeah, same way. It needs to come up probably a good full turn. Don't go by these belt lines; they can always be off. Go by your original paint lines. You see, we need to come up. And you can see I've got a little bit of a gap, so my tip looks good. My tipping, because I'm touching here at the top first, that looks good. So that tells me I need to adjust my stopping point. That's these two adjustments here. I'll have to back them off slightly, and I may have to. We'll have to check it out. The room may have to shift over slightly. That'll come with loosening, by loosening these 4 nuts here, and then which way? Because this is the ram, prise it over. Yeah, then I'd pry this over, tighten it back up. It'll flex back. Bring. No, I need to go back, or which way I need to go? I need to go the other way because I'm seeing this edge here. I'll have to check it from the inside a little bit better, trying to make sure my gap is about the same inside the box. But all right, getting closer, getting closer. All right, so I'm gonna try to dial in those paint lines. You see where I'm at here. This is the big ram box. This is the bolts that bolted up to the bottom of the RV. So I'm gonna just try to give this nut one full turn. Watch the flat. And watch where it goes. All right, it's on the back side. Follow it around. All right, so I got one full turn on that. So it's going to raise me up, 1/8 of an inch or better. So I'm going to do the same thing to that nut back there, and then I'll tighten this up. That's going to raise this up. When it raises it up the entire room with it. So that's what I'm doing now. Let me point this out to you, because you can't get on the bolt on the other side. You can use a 1/2-inch drive ratchet and extension. It's pretty easy because of this piece here. That's where your emergency retraction all threaded rod goes in. It's in the way, so a good trick: get your 2 3/4. Hang on. Get your 2 3/4 wrenches. So put one like that. Take the other one. Hook it in like this. All right, let me show you. There we go. Now you got a lot of leverage. You can get in here and you put some really good torque on it, because you want that good and tight. Otherwise, it's kind of a pain just trying to use one short wrench up in here. There's you another tip for the day. Okay, here's another tip. So now this is the front ram I'm getting tightened up. Well, I got that tightened up is easy because I got the ratchet and extension. Getting to this other side, because you got all this pump in your way, it's hard to get leverage. So my trick for that is a cheater pipe, except we get the wrench in place, get the cheater pipe up against this piece of railing here, and then just give it a good push like that. Well, don't let it slip, but you get the idea. Then you can also go over, once you get it so far, you can go over to the second piece of metal here and get another bite. Get it good and tight. All right, got the paint lines looking good now. Let's go check the other side out. Oh, geez, trip and break a leg. All right, yep, looking good. All right, got that done. Now I need to adjust the stopping point. Remember, I have this gap I got to get rid of. Got this gap right here. It's not sealing. Seals good at the top, and that's where these stops are. Got to be adjusted. Where's it at? Yeah. See, this is Allen head. It's like a bolt. There's the nut. Remember, this is the stationary part. That rail assembly I just replaced. This part's mounted to the cylinder that moves in and out on the room. So we're going to fine tune this to let the room come in just a little bit more. So I'm going to back these out a little bit and see if we can get it to close up. Okay, so I got it dialed in. Now to make this adjustment, I did have to remove this bolt here in order to get my 9/16 wrench up in here. I had to use the open end. But we got it adjusted. You can see a little mirror here. You can see, where is it at? Yeah, there it is. You see those double jam nuts there? That's the stopping point. And you adjust this in and out. And you see we have good compression on the seal now. All the way up. Let's check the other side. Yep, seal is compressed all the way up. All right. I like it, I like it. Alright, so I've got my paint lines where I want them. Got all my adjusting done. So after you get that done, you got to make sure your gussets are tight. So come in here and tighten up your 7/16 or 1/4 inch screws, 7/16 wrench. Got 2 on both sides. Make sure all these are tight. Everything's back in place. Jam nuts. That up there is good and tight. So just follow up. Remember, you got screws here that hold this in place. All this stuff. Remember, these bolts, the nuts go down. If you put them the other way on top, they'll jam up. There's not enough room. So keep the nuts on the bottom side. So that's another tip for you. All right, so I got this side all tightened up, and I just got to go way over to the front side and get it snugged up. Okay, I believe I got it where I want it. Let's take the room out. All right, let's bring it back in. Alrighty, I think we got it dialed in. So I discovered something while assembling this. I noticed now, when you buy these plastic bushings to put in, when they wear down, they come in a kit. They have white and black bushings. And I wasn't clear. Once I called the factory one time, and they told me, one time they said, well, the black ones maybe are harder material, but they had a complaint that some people, they made noise. But evidently they like them, because on these new assemblies, they're putting the black bushings here on the bottom. So I guess that's probably the way to go. And when you get those kits and you see the black or white, you might want to choose the black ones. So evidently there must be a stronger material, and that's what they want to use here in the future, instead of those little white nylon pieces. So maybe it's a different material and will last and hold up for us a little bit better. Oh, all clear, honey. See, I want to get a little documentation of this thing coming out. We got it dialed in and working really good. Okay, honey, go ahead and hit the out button until I say whoa. Whoa. All right, so what do I want to watch for? is this timing bar. I want to point this timing bar out to you because it's critical to getting this timing bar in the right place. Because if you're too high with this timing bar, with this here, the glide shoe will hit it and push it over. Now the glide shoe actually on up here is the glide shoe, because in this area we have rollers. Okay, honey, push it out a little bit more. Okay. All right.
Huh?
All right, go a little bit more.
I can't hear you too
Yeah,
good.
yeah, go. Oh, let me check the rollers. Yeah, do it again. All the way up. Okay, again. All right, all the way. Oh, okay. Yeah, this part here is what's kind of critical. Watching these, because if the timing bar is too high, this will hit it and bend it over, and you'll see that quite a bit with those bolts get bent. So, and actually, I think it's probably wise we'll take a little bit of RV lube, because this is plastic up here. Here's our rollers. Take that RV, that dry spray lube, and give it a slick surface, so when it comes out, it can just slide over it. Okay, honey, bump it in just a hair. Again. 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 Okay, again. 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 Okay. Okay, take it in again. All right, one more time. Okay. Okay, take it back out.
All the way?
So it seems to me, from what I can figure out, is on these timing bars, when the room is all the way out, you know, adjust the timing bar up till it just makes contact with the floor. And so hopefully that'll be just about right. If you go too much, you risk bending the timing bar over as the floor comes out and it catches on this glide shoe. You want to avoid that. So be mindful. You know, start out low with this jack bolt when you start out. So keep that in mind when you're making your adjustments. Okay, one more video of it coming in. We got better light now. It's daytime. Very nice. Sounds better than ours, actually. I got a little bit more of a big clunk when I come in. There we go. Looks good, looks good. All right, one last time. I just can't get enough of it. Take her out, take her out. And be sure to watch these things when they go out. Make sure both goes out nice and smooth and even. There we go. You get a little bit of a noise usually when it transfers over to the timing bar. You get a little bit of a clunk, but it's coming in and out nice and smooth. But watch these rooms when they're coming in. You know, watch both corners. Make sure they're moving in nice and smooth. If one suddenly stops and the room starts to rack, get off the button, stop and investigate, see what's going on. Because you could blow a line or something weird could happen and rack the room really bad, and that's a real nightmare to unrack a room. You can do it. You have to do it, you know, manually, retraction, and I got a video on that, but best to avoid. So there you go.